Yo, what is going on today, guys? We're back here for another video talking about the meta game. So we've had 3 huge tournaments since the mini set Eevee Grove launched, and yeah, we're just going to look at all the tournaments. We're going to look at the meta games. We're going to see what are the winning deck profiles, and yeah, let's get into it. So for the 3 tournaments, we have the Magma series. We have the FrogEX, which are FrogEX and Magma have both finished, so we actually know who won. And then we also have the Ursiiday, which is the biggest tournament of the week that is currently still going on, although Top Cut is finalized, so we can at least look at the Top Cut data, and then I will record more footage when the tournament is actually done, add it into the video so we can look at the winning deck list. So first off, we have the Magma tournament that happened actually on Friday, yesterday. So surprisingly, Guzzlord and Helga was actually the most represented deck. Then under that, we have Buzzwole, Solgaleo, Giratina Darkrai, more Buzzwole. Technically Buzzwole is the most represented deck because I always forget it splits Buzzwole into 2, but still Guzzlord being like the second most represented deck was just still a surprise to me. Then for the new decks, we have Sylveon Greninja. We have the Slurpuff Alcremie, which didn't do that good, only had a 45% win rate, and then stuff like Flareon, Incineroar, some Shiinotic Magnezones down here. But so basically in this tournament, out of all the new decks, the most represented one was actually going to be Sylveon Greninja, and then the Sylveon Eevee down here, which this is like the pure Eevee decks. Like these are the ones that are playing like the non-EX Sylveon and the Espeons as well. But as you can see here, it only has actually a 35% win rate, so that variant compared to the Sylveon Greninja had literally 50% worse win rate, as you know, this one has 60, this one has 30. Yeah, so obviously this variant of Sylveon is not as good as the Greninja variant. But now that we've looked at the metagame a little bit, let's actually like look at the tournaments, right? Let's just look at Top Cut. So this tournament was actually, as we see here, dominated. Well, not dominated, I wouldn't say dominated, but it got one first and second place was actually Giratina, Sylveon, and Greninja. So this was the first place winning deck profile. Just classic, you know, the 2 Froakies, 2 Greninjas. We have the 2 Eevees, 2 Draw, 2 Sylveons, 1 Giratina. They have the 2 Cyruses, a red card for you know, the disruption, a giant cape, which is very good on, you know, just a lot of things. Greninja lives a Solgaleo hit, lets Sylveon live a Solgaleo hit. Sometimes, you know, it matters on Giratina to not die. And this person is running a Pokecom for a little bit of consistency to sometimes find the evolution PC does need. And then the second place is actually running the exact same list. The only difference is they are running only 1 Cyrus and instead 1 Irida, which I feel like this is like the most traditional build. This is what I've seen most in ranked, is people using an Irida of 1 Cyrus. But I think the 2 Cyruses, like it's so strong, dude, because you like always have that threat of Cyrus like online, dude, and just, you know, having access to 2 Cyruses can literally just be game winning in these Greninja decks. So like this deck is very powerful. Like we can look at either one, it doesn't matter. Like I said, they're basically the same, only difference is in Irida. So why is Sylveon good in this deck? One, the main problem with Greninja is finding their rare candy. When you add Sylveon, because we are already playing a psychic attacker, and not only that, but Greninja only needs 1 water energy. This allows you to play dual, as Sylveon only needs 1 psychic. So you have Giratina, which is very powerful. You have you have like a lot of ways to get into Greninja. You have the Pokecom, you have the Sylveons to draw. So you essentially have 8 Pokemon researchers. So you have 2, 4, 6, you have 8 draws, dude. And if you think about it, you start with 5 cards, you have 15 cards in your deck. You basically cut your deck in half by playing 2 Sylveons and 2 Professor Researchers, making this deck very consistent in finding the Greninjas. And once you have Greninja online, very powerful, because then Giratina like basically just knocks out anything for free. Yeah, so it's just a very strong deck. And then under that we have Buzzwole. I guess we could see if they're doing anything fancy. 2 Celesteela. Okay, so this is a 2 Cortana build. I feel like recently people have been favoring either 2 Pheromosas or just 1 Pheromosa and then 1 Cortana. This one is still playing 2 Cortanas, which, you know, it's still fine. It's just still a good Buzzwole deck at the end of the day. Looking at his list, he is playing a Guzma. Some people don't play Guzma and they play 2 Ericas. This one's playing 1 Erica and 1 Guzma. Besides that, dude, is like a very traditional Buzzwole list that's been the same thing that's been dominating the game since last season. So there's not really much to talk about. Then we just have 2 Darkrai Giratinas. Let's just see. Yeah, this one is the poison variant. Nothing special about this one. Literally just 2 poison barbs with the Nahelgo is the only difference. If you've been around the game, we know how like dominant just Darkrai Giratina has been since the launch of Giratina EX. I guess I could open the deck profile if anybody is new and wants to actually look at the list. Yeah, so this is just going to be the list. I'm going to be honest, this is like a very standard version. there's really nothing much to talk about besides it's just a very consistent deck with the added power of the poison, which can be very toxic. Like, no pun intended, like actually it's a very toxic deck when they have like Poison Barb, Darkrai, Giratina like right away. The one in second place is like, or the one that got like second highest and fourth place is literally the exact same deck list. Then fifth, we have another, or sixth, I mean, my apologies. We have another Sylveon Greninja. One Cyrus, one Irida. It's the same thing as the second place one. Then just some more Buzzwole lists. We have a Greninja Oricorio, which is interesting. So this deck was popping off a lot at the end of the rank, and it's just very good still. You have the Greninjas, you have the Oricorios to wall off EX Pokemon, the Giratina to charge itself up with the Piku Muku for the extra damage. Two Professor Researchers, the Irida, the Guzma, the Cyrus, the Rare Candy, the Pokeballs, Red Card, and one Giant Cape, you know, just to put on people depending on the situation. Yeah, I mean, it's a very strong deck. I mean, Oricorio walls off Solgaleo, which is one of the best decks currently. Greninja, I mean, everybody knows how powerful Greninja is. It's been meta relevant, and it hasn't been meta relevant, but it's always been a strong card. But with the introduction of Rare Candy, it's kind of like been meta relevant ever since. And then Giratina is just Giratina. So yeah, it's just a strong deck, dude. Like, we'd even like look at the matches, for example. This person beat Charizard and Incineroar. I'm not surprised. I mean, double Oricorio. How are they really gonna win unless you brick? Then it beat Buzzwole, Solgaleo, Buzzwole. It's just Oricorio. Literally, bro. Oricorio just walls off. They lost, or they beat Guzzlord Nahelgo. I think that's fine. Greninja Giratina is very annoying for Guzzlord actually. And then they lost to Sylveon Greninja. I'm not kind of surprised because obviously Greninja can't knock out Oricorio. I think the Sylveon variant is probably just very, like, it's much more faster. They probably just got Greninja online way faster and lost to that. Then they beat a Magnezone Shiinotic, which is kind of interesting. I'm gonna kind of give like a hot take that Magnezone Shiinotic low-key probably bricked maybe, or maybe they just, you know, got like the Greninjas right away. Then they beat then they beat another Greninja, actually Sylveon. I don't know why this one's displaying under a different thing. Pokemon or like Limitless is weird about that. It's because they're actually playing Eevee EXs instead of drawing Eevee, which is always a choice if in case you want the additional 30 damage with the Eevee EX. And then they lost to the other Greninja Sylveon. So yeah, I mean, it's just a strong deck, man. It's just like literally a problem looking at this is like walled off an EX, walled off an EX, walled off an EX. It's just walled off a bunch of EX Pokemon. We have this Guzzlord who also did pretty good in the top 10. Traditional Guzzlord list that does not play Nagendel, plays all these other cards. The PCL is very good for mirror matches and stuff like that, you know, healing up Guzzlord in case it does get sniped. Traditional, we like, you know, the strong cards, bro, like Silvally, Rampardos, Solgaleo. We actually have Incineroar Turtonator that did pretty good, surprisingly. You know, it's a strong card into the format. I mean, Turtonator is good. Incineroar got a buff of Howl. It's just, you know, decent. And you know, we had an Alcromie deck, bro, that actually got 21st place, you know, so we can just like look at that real quick, because why not? Yeah, so it's just a traditional one. I mean, this deck is strong if you go second, bro. It can be broken. I won't lie, it can be. Like, if your opponent bricks a little bit, you go second. This deck can be very powerful. Going first, that kind of sucks a little bit, but you know, 21st place for a shout out to them, bro, because it's kind of a meme deck. I'm gonna be real, bro, but you know, it's probably like roguish or something. Yeah, but overall, just looking at everybody's like Sylveon, Greninja, we have the Darker Giratinas, and it's just like a bunch of like Buzzwoles, some Silvally Rampardoses, more Buzzwoles, some Guzzlords like spread around here. Zeraora Silvally ended up getting 30th, but it's whatever. 44th was actually a Darkrai Umbreon. So this is a cool deck. Anybody doesn't know, Umbreon is a 1 energy basic Pokemon, can attack. You know, it's like cool, but then like you play a Buzzwole, bro, and then Buzzwole just uses Celesteela to get rid of this downside. So that's like the one bad thing about Umbreon. But you know, it's just a cool deck, bro. They even have like the poison with the Nahelgos and the poison barbs. It's like another just dark red deck, bro. It's like the only dark red deck that's like non-Giratina. So I think it's cool. And then we even like see what they beat. I mean, they beat Slurpuff on me. I'm not exactly surprised. I mean, I feel like Dark Red kind of like destroys that deck. Beat a Guzzlord, bro, which is kind of funny. Lost to Dark Red 13, actually, ironically, you know, because they're all basic Pokemon. Beat Incineroar, beat a Sylveon, beat a Buzzwole, lost to a Buzzwole, beat another Guzzlord, Giratina Darkrai, got revenge. Then just lost to a Guzzlord. I'm not surprised. This deck kind of does seem like it does lose the Guzzlord, because Guzzlord also has the same thing as Buzzwole, but they just have access to Celesteela to get rid of the Umbreon downside. Or debuff, I mean, whatever you want to call it. Besides that, bro, just a bunch of average decks, bro. Yeah. So I think that wraps it up for the Magma tournament. As we can see, like, Sylveon Greninja definitely made its debut here. And then, like, the tried and true decks, like Darkrai, Giratina, Poison, and then Buzzwole are still just doing good. And then Guzzlord surprisingly had a lot of representation and actually did pretty good. And shout out myself for getting 69th, boys. 69th with Guzzlord Noggindal, the actually only person who brought it. Fun fact. So now moving on to the FrogEX, where I think things actually get pretty interesting. So in FrogEX, Guzzlord not represented at all, bruh. It is represented, bro. We have 11 players, but the win rate was like way worse. At 49%, wasn't even positive. So Silvally Rampardos comes back in the meta. It's the second most played because we have, you know, the two different Buzzwoles, bro, which combine them together is 10%. So Buzzwole is the most represented. Not surprised. It's still one of the best decks in the game. It literally just has everything. It has more. The only thing that Buzzwole has now is just more weaknesses. Obviously, you get stuff like Flareon EX, Incineroar, and then Charizard getting buffed. You know, definitely makes Buzzwole not the most dominant deck that it was, but it's still one of the best deck, if not the best deck in the game. So we have Silvally Rampardos doing good. We have the Buzzwoles doing good as well. Solgaleo actually had a pretty bad win rate with 46%. Then we have more Slurpuffs, also pretty bad win rate. We have Incineroar EX, which solo Incineroar EX, bro, is I'm gonna say it, bro. It's a ranked deck. It's not a tournament deck. I don't think people should be playing this in tournament. I think it can pop off, you know, because it is one of those going first rare candy decks that can't pop off. But otherwise, bro, just play it at ranked instead. Once again, Sylveon EX, the version that is playing Sylveon, like the Sylveon EX and non-Sylveon, it's not doing good, 46%. I didn't think this deck was good. I was getting like baited. This, like, people were telling me this deck was top tier. I think it's top tier if you go second, and if you don't run into a Charizard. But like, I don't know, dude. Like, this deck is, if you don't go second for this deck sucks in my opinion. So we had that deck didn't do that good either. Overall, obviously with 14 players bringing it. Then we had Charizard, Silvally, Darktina, Darkrai, stuff like that. Like, we had some Snorlax, Greninja decks with the new Snorlax, which also did pretty poor. Greninja, Oricorio didn't do as well either. We had Guzzlord, like I already mentioned. Darkrai, Darktina did surprisingly very good with the 60% win rate. Then for the new decks, we had Sylveon, Greninja. We had stuff like Flareon, Torkoal, Primarina, which Primarina actually did pretty good, you know, 52% win rate with only 4 players though. So like we could see only one really did good, so like that one guy just carried it. But like now we can actually look at the standings, bro, because if we go to FrogEX, it is going to be, I'm pretty sure, top 64 top cut. Maybe it's a top 32. Let's see. Yeah, it's a top 32 top cut, so we can just look at the top 32 decks. That's like the most interesting. The metagame is just cool to look at for a little bit to see the percentages, but the main thing is going to be who actually won what decks. So for the FrogEX, the winner is going to be tried and true Silvally Rampardos. I'm not going to look at the deck profile. We're just going to look at it like this. I'm just going to see if there's anything interesting. So Iono, Giovanni, Cyrus, Mars, Skull Fossil, 2 rare candies, and a giant cape. I don't think there's anything interesting. It's like I could click on it for a second. It's the same thing that Silvally Rampardos has been doing. You have Silvally, you draw the Rampardos, bro. It is a high damage, no thinking deck. You attack, 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 and then you will win the game as long as you get your attackers. So he beat a Magnezone Oricorio. I mean, I'm not surprised. A Solgaleo, so he definitely drew Rampardos on that matchup. Beat another Oricorio Silvally deck. I'm not surprised. Beat a Decidueye. I'm not surprised. I think Decidueye sucks because of Silvally. It doesn't suck. Obviously, I don't think it's that good because of Silvally. Beat a Sylveon. I'm not surprised. Lost to a Magnezone Shiinotic. You know, that deck is actually very good into Silvally. He also probably didn't get Rampardos, or his opponent just got the God Roll of 2 Magnezones and then tied with the Sylveon Magnezone. Then they beat a mirror match. They beat Darkrai Umbreon, which I'm not surprised. I don't see what that deck's going to do. I mean, everything gets one shot besides Darkrai. They beat a Magnezone Shiinotic for the run back. It's not the same person, but they still beat the deck, which I think is like actually very good into it. You know, if they don't get Rampardos. They beat a Sylveon deck again. They beat the Gengar, and then they beat a Buzzwole player. So I think they just brute force for our strength. I think Rampardos just, you know, did its job. It just one shot, or like did a lot of damage to everything. Second place is Buzzwole. We can just look at the deck profile real quick. It's just the 1/1 version. So they have 2 Ericas and the Guzma. They actually have the Repel instead of Sabrina, which is interesting. You know, which, you know, it makes sense. It does make sense in this meta. Because you want to be able to Lucamine, and then you want to also be able to actually sometimes attack the thing in the back, and it can win you a game. So I think Repel is strong, where Sabrina, obviously you can't Sabrina Lucamine, or even something like Repel Erica on the same turn. So, you know, it's just a strong card, bro. The interesting thing is we have actually a Gengar Shiinotic. So if we look at the deck list, I think this is very cool. Real quick, let's just look at what he beat. So he beat a Flareon Silvally. He lost to a Flareon Silvally. My apologies. Not surprised. I mean, this deck can brick, and also, you know, Silvally early game, if you don't go in the Gengar fast, it can definitely be a problem. Plus Flareon does a lot of damage. Beat a Buzzwole, beat a Charizard. Charizard, okay, I'm not even gonna count that, bro. I don't even know that, but beat Buzzwole, you know, because you do lock them out of Erica's and stuff like Lusamine. Beat this. Beat another Silvally deck. Obviously, you know, you can lock Silvally out of support cards. Another Buzzwole, another Alcremie, Buzzwole. So they just had the Buzzwole backer, bro, low key. The only thing they lost to was the Silvally Rampardos, which is I'm pretty sure that's the guy who won. And also beat a Decidueye, which, you know, Gengar is very good in the Decidueye as you lock them out of Erica's and Lilies. So, and also Decidueye doesn't do the most amount of damage. So I'm not surprised because this guy is playing Dusknoir. Yeah, so I've been cooked by this deck, unfortunately, bro. A lot of times on a rank, bro. Like every time I run into her, bro, which is not common. It's not a common deck by any means, but when I run into her, bro, I feel like I just get mopped. So you have 2 Gengar EXs, you have the Shiinotics to find all the Pokemon, then you have the one Dusknoir, which just takes all the damage from Gengar. You also could use it as an way to beat Oricorio because it does do 70 damage for 3. And then just to progress researchers, 2 Lilies. With the combination of Lily and Dusknoir, this I'm gonna be honest, bro. Once they get it set up, bro, it is sometimes impossible to kill Gengar. Unless you have a way to one-shot the Gengar, it is almost impossible. Then just a one Cyrus because, you know, Gengar does not one-shot anything. Nothing in this deck really one-shots anything, so the Cyrus makes sense over Sabrina. Another Silvally Rampardos is probably the exact same list. I want to be so real. But then we have Decidueye actually making top 5, which is really cool. So How also does buff Decidueye. It does actually let you one-shot a Silvally that does not have a giant cape at full HP, which actually is a huge buff with Pierce the Pain. Or not Pierce the Pain, but Razor Leaf. So yeah, I mean, dude, Decidueye, like, Pheromosa Decidueye is a very strong deck if you do go second. I'm not going to ever say it's not, but going first is where this deck really has the downside. As we saw, it did lose to the Gengar, which, you know, took out the access to both Lily, Erica, and even stuff like How. And we just see what they placed. I mean, I think this deck is very good in the Buzzwole because you can just snipe the Buzzwole in the back, or if not, you can just go through 2 things and then snipe something like a Celesteela after getting a Pheromosa ping. Beat Magnezone Shiinotic, same thing. You could just snipe the Magnezones in the back. Lost to Silvally Rampardos, not surprised going first against that deck, and just even going second against that deck sometimes, bro, is like it's just not enough, bro. They just one-shot everything, and then sometimes the Decidueye can't one-shot them back. Beat Buzzwoles, beat the Primarina. Beat actually Silvally's Aurora. I think probably you have a better matchup because there's more ways for them to not have access to Silvally right away. So I'm not surprised. Beat Slurpuff, not surprised. I mean, Slurpuff, I don't know, man. It's like the Decidueye just destroys them all. Beat a Solgaleo Skarmory, which I'm actually kind of surprised that I made top 16. It's been a minute since we've seen a Skarmory. I wonder if they have no, just classic old Skarmory. Okay, we'll definitely get into that. Then obviously lost with the Gengar. Like I said, it's unkillable. It's unkillable, bro, without Masquerada. So shout out to them, bro, because Decidueye, obviously, you know, one of my favorite cards. Very happy to see doing well. And then we had a Sylveon make top 6, which is going to be, let's see. Yeah, it's actually going to be the one Sylveon, one Espeon version. No Giratina or no Shiinotics that I've seen some of these builds run. And like I said, I think this deck is very strong if you do go second. I think going first, like, does suck, but that is why Espeon can be good because it's a 1 energy attacker. And then let's say like double hand disruption, 2 Eevee bags. You know, we have a full Eevee deck. We might as well with the giant cape to let you guys like live because, you know, Espeon, Sylveon are both squishy. Sylveon gets one shot by Solgaleo. And then an X speed, which makes sense because sometimes you could like with an Eevee EX, you could tank in the front line because it is 90 HP and then swap out to something in the back with the XP to save energy because this deck is very, like, this deck is very heavy on energy, bro. So sometimes like just actually having to manually retreat can lose you a game because you don't have that 1 energy anymore. Or like, for example, maybe if you start with Eevee EX, you want to XP out to the one that draws because you might have bricked. That is also another option. So I think the XP is pretty cool. So we can see what they beat. We beat, I'm not surprised. I actually beat Solgaleo, bro. So I'm going to go on and say it. The Solgaleo player either bricked or they went second, bro. Like the Sylveon went second. Lost to Buzz. I'm not surprised. I think Buzz is actually like a pretty bad matchup in certain situations. Your Snorlax Dogga, interesting. Surpuff. It beat a Buzzwole. Lost to Silvally Rampardos. Also not surprised. Beat an Incineroar Flareon, another Sylveon, a Primarina, and then just lost to a Silvally Rampardos once again. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool deck. I think it definitely has a lot of weaknesses, and I think it's a solid deck. I think it's a strong deck. I just don't think it's a top tier deck. I don't think it's like the #1 or like I don't think it's like a top 10 deck. I think it's like maybe in the top 15, the top 20 range, and just cool. We had Guzzlord. It was like the only one that did good in this tournament. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it looks like it. So there's like the only Guzzlord that did good. We actually had heatmor and Incineroar, which is very funny. I mean, it makes sense. You like fire types don't really have a good like one energy attacker. That's a basic. So I mean, heatmor is like basically a Farfetch. If you do run into something like Buzzwole, it's very strong into that. And then they actually are playing they're actually playing Penny, bro, which is actually very surprising. So dude, I mean, just good job on the top cut, man. Dude, you got like 8th place playing Penny, like one of the worst supporters possibly. So shout out to you. We have Magnezone Shiinotic, which is one of the cool decks that has kind of been here since the last one. They have one Oricorio as well, one Cyrus, one Sabrina, one Mars. It's just a very strong deck into stuff like Solgaleo, Buzzwole, and Silvally decks. I think what I'm interested in, bro, we actually have a Flareon Turtonator. So this is like probably the most represented Flareon deck at the moment. This is the one Flareon has been the most. Turtonator, Flareon Turtonator has always been broken. It is still broken if you do go first with Kiawe. Flareon obviously ramps itself up, so you don't have the downside of Turtonator being an energy hog, which is really cool. Then 2 Eevee bags, Mars, red card, Rocky Helmet, 2 PCLs, and just a lot of stuff, you know. It's just a very strong offensive deck if you can get Kiawe. If you can get Kiawe, bro, you're cooking, bro, like the first 2 turns. Like literally, bro, like no pun. Where you see here, bro, they just kind of beat everything, bro. They just beat everything. They even beat a Charizard player, so they definitely got Kiawe, bro, 100%. And then I lost to Darkrai Darktina. I mean, not surprised. I mean, they do have ways to heal out of like 2 Kiawe hits, or you know, maybe they just didn't get Kiawe. And then they lost to Guzzlord, which I'm also not surprised because, you know, Guzzlord can 1 just delete the energy, and then 2, you know, they have Celesteela to tank hits, so I'm not surprised. Besides that, I mean, everything else looks pretty standard. I mean, we have like the Sylveon EVs. The only other deck that's like surprising is actually 14th place is Primarina Silvally. So I'm kind of intrigued by this because I didn't think this is a good combo. Like, I know Primarina can attack for 1 energy, but 40 damage is not really doing so. I guess, you know, with type no Silvally, you have a good going second package. And if you actually have Popplio Primarina early game going first, it can be very strong as well. So I guess you technically have like 2 different engines. I don't think they mesh the best together. Maybe that's just my personal opinion because like I feel like, you know, Silvally is an energy hog. So it's going to be hard to set up around Primarina in certain situations and certain matchups if the Silvally does die early. But I mean, otherwise, dude, I mean, it is strong both. It depends. Like you have 2 strong engines. It kind of just depends on which ones you draw. So I'm not surprised. Like, let's actually just like look at what it actually beat as well. So it farmed the fire decks. It lost to Solgaleo. I'm not surprised. It's very hard to beat Solgaleo sometimes. Farm Silvally's Aurora. I mean, I'm not surprised. Like I said, I think that's like the worst Silvally deck into Silvally mirror matches. Lost to Decidueye, surprisingly. I actually feel like Decidueye is very bad in the Silvally. So maybe they got like an early KO of Howl. Maybe they sniped the Primarina because, you know, Primarina only does do 100 damage with Erica's and Lily's. It is pretty hard to kill Decidueye with Primarina. So I'm not the most surprised. Beat Guzzlord, beat Silvally Rampardos, actually beat a Solgaleo, bro. So who knows if the Solgaleo bricked or went first, and then just lost to Sylveon Eevee. So besides that, like I said, this was top 32 top cut. There actually is one more interesting deck which I will just talk about. There's Silvally Flareon, which I've talked about on my channel, barely not getting top cut. Another Darkrai Umbreon, bro. Like these guys are always squeezing in. We have a Tapu Pikachu at the very bottom. But I just saw it, dude. We have a Solgaleo Bastiodon, bro. This deck is cooking. So you guarantee the start of either Regirock or Cosmog. It's just hilarious, bro. I feel like this is just so random. I'm not going to say it's a good deck by any means, but it's just cool that it made top cut. I guess we could also just look at what it beat. So it beat Incineroar. It's beating decks that I just feel like it shouldn't be beating, bro. I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, it's a Solgaleo deck. And if you get Solgaleo, bro, you also have Bastiodon as a way to beat Oricorios and just, you know, potentially just never die. I just think it's funny. Yeah, so I think that does it for the FrogEX tournament. Now we're going to move on to the Ursiidays, which is going to be the biggest tournament so far from this mini set. Now for the real stuff, bruh. Ursiidays, man. All right, so I think it is very clear that Sylveon Greninja is one of the best, if not the best deck currently from the new set, for at least for the first week at 85 players and actually still maintaining a 55% win rate. Out of curiosity, we have Buzzwole at 6%, then we have another Buzzwole down here at 2%. Yes, so it is even outplacing stuff like Buzzwole in usage rate. Even Solgaleo is also And then like stuff like Darkrai Giratina is at 7. So it's like Darkrai Giratina, Guzzlord, and then Buzzwole are actually at the same percent. And unlike Silvally Rampardos, at FrogEX it is actually way lower. It's still 34 players, still a lot, and I see it has a really good win rate. But Sylveon Greninja is definitely the most dominant, so that is cool. Then what else? We have like Magnezone, Shiinotic, we have Incineroar. That we have solo Incineroar, which is still at a very low percent win rate, even though it is, you know, played a decent amount. Magnezone, Shiinotic, like I said, bro. Then we have the debut of actually Sylveon Charizard. So this was a deck I've seen on Twitter. I've seen people playing, bro, on streams. It's actually finally made its way to a tournament, having a 51% win rate, so it's very good. So the reason why it's so good is because the main issue of Charizard was not getting Charizard early. Sylveon is just 2 extra professor researches to actually find the Charizard with a 1 retreat cost. And it can lose to Oricorio, definitely still a bad matchup, but they are actually taking in an option. I will get into that later once we actually look at some deck profiles. And then, you know, just like stuff like Greninja, Oricorio, all those Silvally variants. But let's actually look at some deck lists, bro, and let's see what cool decks actually made top 64 to make top cut so far at this tournament. So there's only one person who is 7-0 with a tie, which is going to be a Silvally Rampardos player. We can just click on her real quick. Let's just see if they are playing any cool techs. So actually, bro, I think they are. They are playing a Guzma in the deck. Traditionally, I do not see Silvally Rampardos players play Guzma. This one's also not playing a giant cape, so I just think it's a cool another option. Definitely, you know, can be useful to get rid of stuff like poison barbs, especially if both Darkrai, Giratina, Poison, and Guzzlord is going to be more represented than it was in the past. It's a fun option. We just have the traditional, we just have the Sylveon Greninja decks that we've already talked about. I guess we just click on this. This one is playing 2 Cyruses and an Irida. What did they cut out? Let's see. 2 Cyruses, 1 Irida. They're not playing a Pokemon communication, so they don't value the Pokemon communication over 2 Cyruses. That they obviously value that 2 Cyruses is more powerful. This one is also doing the exact same thing, except instead of Pokemon communication and Irida, they were playing Iono instead of the 2 Cyruses. So it looks like 2 Cyruses has definitely developed into overall like the more standard way to play, and probably overall the better way, because you obviously want to see the Cyruses, bro. Even if you are drawing through the whole deck, you still want to see it early possibly. So then besides that, dude, we just have some average decks. I don't think we looked at the deck list, so we can just look at a Silvally Zeraora real quick. So this is like one of the decks that was pretty good last season, and Geo, PCL, Sabrina, Dawn looks like a pretty average list in my eyes. So if you guys are like looking for one of these decks, I mean, it's just another Silvally deck that has a better matchup into stuff like obviously the EX decks with Oricorio, and sometimes going first with the Zeraora and the Dawn can let you have a better going first Silvally version compared to usually sucking going first. Besides that, the only other cool one is Turtonator Flareon that we already covered. We see this one is playing the same thing of the 2 PCLs, the Rocky Helmet. It looks like the exact same list. This one's playing a Sabrina. I can't remember if the last one was playing a Guzma, but you know, some of those support cards, bro, like some of them can be changed out of other ones. Just kind of depends on your playstyle and what the meta is looking like. So obviously the main discussion is going to be Charizard Sylveon. So let's just look at this list. So this is the main list that I've personally been seeing. Some play Giant Cape, some don't play Giant Cape. But it is Charmander, Charizard, no Charmeleon, because you have the Sylveons to draw into the rare candies. And like I was mentioning earlier, they are playing the Genetic Apex Flareon to actually allow you to beat Oricorio, not have an auto loss matchup, you know, as everything doesn't do damage besides the EX Pokemon. But Flareon, if anybody doesn't know it, because it was never really meta relevant, we have Flareon 120 HP for 3 fire energy. Obviously Charizard ramped itself up, so energy management 3 is still a lot, but it is way more doable because Charizard does, you know, have Stoke. But discard an energy and attack 110 damage. And then obviously the cool thing about 120 is you do live stuff like a Magnezone attack that is traditionally played in those Oricorios, as well as a Silvally attack. Yeah, so this deck is basically just Turbo Charizard. That's all it is. It's just a Turbo Charizard. You have the Mars, obviously, because we're playing a bunch of EX Pokemon instead of the red card. Plus, the only supporters we really have are Professor Research and stuff like that in the Lilies. So Mars just makes more sense over red card because it can have more value late game, as you definitely don't want like a Charizard or like a Sylveon to get Cyrus or Sabrina back in. Besides that, it looks like all the average stuff we've already talked about. Into top 64. Let's see if there's a Pikachu Oricorio and actually a Flareon Salazzle. Let's look at this real quick. So obviously he's only made top cuts, but they're actually playing Salazzle Flareon. So you know what, dude? I mean, poison is pretty cool, bro. I mean, so you're gonna be doing 40 damage. The poison takes can add up over time, and is just like I've said with the heatmor and Incineroar, bro. Like fire types don't have the best cards to work with, bro. And I mean, Salazzle is decent if you can get it early. So it's pretty cool. Let's actually see what they beat, just out of curiosity. So they beat Darkrai, Darktina. I mean, Flareon with the Eevee bags can one-shot them and do very good. They beat a Gengar Shiinotic, which is kind of funny. Lost to a fellow. I mean, I'm gonna bet they just got Kiawered, but I'm gonna be 100% honest. They actually beat a Solgaleo with Togedemaru. That's just weird. They beat Fraud and Incineroar. They beat a Sylveon Greninja, bro. So that is the best deck currently in the game, and they actually ended up beating it with the Salazzle Flareon, which I think Flareon actually does really good in this deck. With the EV bags, can one-shot Sylveon. Obviously, we one-shot Greninja, and then if Giratina attacks, we would also one-shot that as well. So I think it's very well positioned into the meta. And then obviously just to make top cut, they tied with Sylveon and Incineroar, which is actually a cool deck that we will probably get into. I think it's like lower down. So it's just pretty cool, bro. It's just cool to see like other Flareon decks doing pretty good. We also have this Pikachu Oricorio, which is a really cool Oricorio deck. So they actually have the tech of the Sky Shaman. The Sky Shaman lets you not have to play X speed. You know, everything just does a 1 retreat cost. So if Sky Shaman is in play, everything is just be able to swap around because you do have the 2 Dawns for the Pikachu Blast. You also have the Electric Cord, Leftovers. The Leftovers is probably let Oricorio live like these burns from Incineroar, also these chips and like poison barbs and all that stuff. Pretty cool addition. You know, we also have the PCL for also some extra healing, Giant Cape, and obviously the Electrical Cords to pass the energy on to something else. And yeah, I mean, they ended up beating Charizard. Not surprised. I mean, Charizard is very bad in the Oricorio, even if they have the Flareon tech. Sometimes they either one can't draw or they don't have enough energy by the time it matters. I actually ended up beating Silvally, bro. I'm actually kind of surprised this deck beat Silvally. I don't understand how. Maybe they got the God Roll of the Dawns. Maybe the Silvally player bricked. They beat a fellow Flareon deck. They beat Silvally Rampardos. Once again, I'm kind of confused on how you're actually beating this deck with. But you know what, Brand? They're cooking. They're actually cooking. Lost to Guzzlord. I'm not surprised. Guzzlord is very good into Zorora or Oricorio decks. They beat Gengar Sylveon once again. If this one's even playing Dusknoir, let's see. This one actually is not playing Dusknoir, so they actually have, besides the regular Gengar, there's no way for them to deal with Oricorio, which so it makes sense that they beat them. Beat Solgaleo, Oricorio, and then just tied with a Buzz and make top cut. So I just think it's a cool deck, bro, and they definitely are. I'm actually surprised that they beat those Silvally decks, bro. They're cooking. Is all I will say. And I think that does it. I mean, there's a Tapu Koko deck. It's just Tapu Koko, Magnezone, Oricorio. That's all it is. Yeah, literally. It's just an electric deck. I'm not going to talk about that, bro, because it's like it's one of those decks that like do all right. It was kind of their last meta. I guess let me click on it, bro. Let me not be that guy. I'm just a Tapu Koko hater, bro, because I feel like I always lose with this deck, right? Because they always have like the God Hand. You know, Tapu Koko for early aggression. You have Oricorio for the EX decks, and then you just have Magnezone as a Silvally guy, bro. It's like Magnezone's broken, you know, 110 damage, 140 HP, ramps itself up. And yeah, they beat Buzzwole players. I mean, they actually lost the Sylveon Greninja twice, but they actually ended up beating it to make top cut, so that's pretty cool. Obviously, Solgaleo was like a free win. Buzzwole is also a really like low-key a free win as well. Another Solgaleo. I mean, the Skarmory definitely can be annoying, but they still beat it. And there's one more deck I wanted to look at, and I just don't see it. I think I missed it. It is going to be the Sylveon Incineroar. So like we were talking about, Charizard is just Turbo Incineroar. That's all it is. Mars Sabrina, we have the House. They are opting to play an Eevee EX over 2 draw Eevees, you know, for some early damage maybe. Maybe it can come up. Maybe, you know, like a Torracat attack and then an Eevee EX that can knock out an Oricorio theoretically. So maybe that's like what the vision is. Or maybe, you know, the 90 HP to let like you live an additional hit against some of these meta decks early game. Who knows? I just, you know, it's a Turbo Incineroar deck, bro. So I just think it's cool. I think Sylveon is low-key about to be that card that is just going to be slotted into so many decks as like extra professor researchers at this point. Which, you know what, bro? Like, I'm fine with at the end of the day. I'm fine with, bro. I mean, Sylveon is one of my favorite Pokemon. It's been in my YouTube bio, bro, for like Sylveon, Mimikyu, stuff like that. The Decidueye, Venusaur. So I'm happy, one of my favorite best Pokemon, but I'm not gonna cap, bro. Sometimes Sylveon is toxic. It is definitely a toxic card for the game because your opponent just goes through the whole deck. But at the end of the day, bro, it is what it is. At least it's just a support card instead of like something broken that's like one-shotting everything. And it's making like stuff like Buzzwole not as good. So you know what, I'll take it. Anyways, that does it for the current Top Cut meta report on the Ursiiday tournament. I will update the video literally after this, so for you, it will just be edited in. So as soon as the tournament finishes, I will let you guys know what decks won, and that'll be the end of the video. So I guess we'll wait. Okay, so it is Sunday, and the Ursiiday tournament is about to finish. The top 4 is currently going on with 3 Sylveon Greninjas and a Flareon Turtonator, actually. And that Turtonator Flareon is actually currently up 1-0. But so top 4 Sylveon and Greninja. Let's just see if they have anything special. This one is 2 Cyruses and an Iono. I think we already looked at this the other day. This person is 2 Cyruses with a giant cape and a Pokecom. So this one has the 2 Cyruses and the Pokecom instead of the Irida. And then this one also has the 2 Cyruses and Iono. So it looks like 2 Cyruses and Iono is probably going to be the way. I actually really like the Iono because personally I have played this list without Iono. And I'm going to be honest, I have bricked a lot of games with this deck, even with the Sylveons. Sometimes if you just don't see them, bro, and you don't see the Darktina early, you will just lose. So I think the Iono is perfect because it gives you that chance to actually find the Sylveons off of the Iono if you have an Eevee down, and then further finding the cards you need from your deck. So I think the Iono 2 Cyruses is probably going to be the best version in my personal opinion. And I've seen some people play Moros over red card, but I think that's just personal preference. Obviously, you know, red card, if you do use something like an Iono, then the Sylveon, and then draw the red card, you can't use it right away, where Mars would have to wait the next turn. Then dude, yeah, Flareon Turtonator, bro. Let's just look at it. So I think we looked at one of these other lists, and they had a giant cape. This one is running the Rocky Helmet, which, you know, I kind of like because the extra damage is sometimes useful. 2 UV bags, a red, Mars, 2 Kiawe's, 2 PCLs. Looks like kind of like the standard same list that we've been seeing. And yeah, we can also just see what they beat so far. So like I said, they're still facing a Sylveon Greninja, but they've also beat every single other Sylveon Greninja. They lost the Guzzlord. I'm not surprised because I just think that's like a pretty bad matchup. And I think we actually already talked about this guy. I think we might have talked about this yesterday because I feel like I'm remembering this matchup, but maybe it was a different Flareon. But you know, they have Celesteela to tank these Kiawe attacks from Turtonator, right, to give them some more time. And then obviously Guzzlord, once you do get it fully set up, does one-shot them. And yeah, they just beat like every single other meta deck, bro. So dude, I mean, Kiawe, I've always been saying it's a very strong card. So, and then Flareon, you know, is like probably the best partner with Turtonator, just because, you know, it does ramp up its own energy. You don't have to worry about the energy too much. So I think it's just a strong deck, man. Besides that, dude, we can see here, I'm gonna be honest, Sylveon Greninja dominated. We have the Buzzwoles a little bit up here. We have the Darkrai Darktinas. We have the Guzzlords. We have the Solgaleos, which honestly, I mean, it looks like Solgaleo's highest placing was 15th, which is kind of surprising, you know, because that deck is very good into Sylveon Greninja, but it looks like it's just, you know, it didn't win. And yeah, this guy actually beat like almost like every other Sylveon Greninja. He did lose the one in Swiss, and then he actually ended up losing 2-1 again. So even though like Solgaleo can be a good matchup, at the same time, I mean, if the Sylveon does get set up and you can't find that Solgaleo in like the first couple turns, the deck definitely has the setup power to actually beat Solgaleo. So although obviously, you know, Solgaleo does one-shot the Sylveon and the Greninja if they don't have capes on them, like you have to find the Solgaleo fast, which sometimes, you know, you can brick with the Solgaleo decks. One thing I forgot to note that I said earlier that Charizard Sylveon had its debut in this tournament, although the highest placing was 45th. So even though it was like represented with 15 players and people were saying it's one of the best decks, it definitely underperformed to what people probably expected the deck to reach. And yeah, so basically, you know, we basically already looked at all these lists yesterday. I just wanted to, you know, actually look at the top 4 and like just kind of see. We have the Buzzwole decks. I mean, we can see this one is just using the 1-1 version. They have a red as well. They have 1 Erica, 1 Cyrus, 1 red, 1 Guzma. They also have the Repel, Giant Cape, and the Rocky Helmet. The Giant Cape is nice for the Solgaleo matchup to let Celesteela tank a Solgaleo attack. Yeah, so it gives, you know, it has a little bit more use than Leaf Cape, where like sometimes Leaf Cape does come and like is more impactful in the mirror match, I would say, but Giant Cape is like nice for those other matchups. And then the 7th place Buzzwole was actually playing 2 Pheromosas without any Cortanas, 2 Ericas, 2 Lucamines, 1 Mars, 1 Red Car, so they have double hand disruption with the Leaf Cape instead of the Giant Cape like the other deck was playing. And then actually at 21st, where we actually have a Sylveon Solgaleo, which, you know, is essentially like the same thing as the The Shiinotic variant, obviously Sylveon does have the drawing power, so sometimes you can find the rare candies faster, where the Shiinotic is more consistent because you can't set the Cosmoan and obviously double them. But the Sylveon version is probably like a better, it's like a faster way to get Solgaleo online, whereas the Shiinotic one will help you set up like 2 of them like almost like very consistently. And then they also have the leftovers for the Solgaleo tech, because obviously Solgaleo does damage itself. With the leftovers, it basically just takes away that downside of attacking of Solgaleo. Meaning if you attack, like if you're at full HP, you attack something like a Flareon with like 2 Eevee bags, or a red won't actually be able to one-shot you, or even like a Charizard. So I think the leftovers is actually a really good tech on Solgaleo, which I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot more going forward. Besides that, they have the traditional stuff, Lily, Guzma, Mars, Sabrina. The Pikachu player we talked about yesterday ended up getting 24th, so congrats to them. I mean, making top 32 with Pikachu is pretty cool. Another Flareon Turtonator. The looks like the Incineroar Sylveon didn't do that good. And yeah, so basically, to sum it up, I guess we can even see, like, let's just see if the person won yet. No, it looks like it's updated. It looks like they are currently 1-1. Otherwise it's not scrolling, bro. Yeah, it looks like it's currently tied. I swear I said 1-1 earlier, bro, but maybe I'm tripping. But either way, the top 4 is going to be 3 Sylveon Greninjas. Possibly the Flareon might be able to clutch up and win. Either way, doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, bro, if you got top 4, any deck could win. And if you want to see who wins later after this video, you can definitely go check it out. I'll have the link to the tournament in the description. Anyways, I think that does it for the meta report, bro. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, just talking, covering the 3 tournaments, looking at some deck lists, and peace out and have a lovely day as always.